Buddy, I'm going to walk you through the center and student stats section of Pulse today so you can get kind of an idea of what you could maybe use these tools for. So we're going to take a look at center stats first. I'm going to go ahead and select a center here. There's a drop-down menu. I can select any center I want. There's 23 centers here I can choose from. I'm just going to choose Kenowa Hills. Now, this report is a summary report of all the data accumulated in these key stats, these key areas, over the course of this week. So where do I stand so far this week? Where was I last week? Here's my 4-week average, and here's my year-to-date average over here. And then you see this 4-week rank and year-to-date rank. That gives you an idea of where you stand in relation to the other 22 centers. So there's 23 centers total here, and this rank will tell you, if for instance you wanted to know where you rank in terms of active students compared to the other centers. Well, this center is at 3rd right now. There must be 2 other centers that have higher numbers of active students in the 4-week average category. So year-to-date rank here. Okay, so active students would be students that are currently active in Pulse, marked active in Pulse. New active students are students that were added to Pulse during the week so far, have become active. Completed classes, that's just simply the number of classes that you marked complete in Edgenuity and became complete. Let's see, average progress is going to be average raw progress for all the students in the center. And again, these stats change based on what happens to your center student population as well, especially if you change FTEs, and some of you do that at your centers. Keep in mind that you'll see fluctuations in this data as you change FTE settings for individual students. Average progress to goal. That is basically your raw progress translated into the student goals. So you should be familiar with many of these, in fact, probably all of them except maybe one based on the use of your dashboard. Average LMS login rate, that's the number of days that students on average are logging into Edgenuity. Average on-site attendance rate. So this is a relatively almost somewhat silly calculation, but it still is. It's good to use for comparative purposes. It's basically every time you mark A for attendance in the log files, when you're entering a log and you mark that the student attended the center, this calculates a percentage of you take all your students and all the available days that they could have attended the center, and this is the percentage that ends up coming out in that calculation. So it's the number of students you have times 5 days, if that was a full week worth of days, and then it looks for the number of A's you recorded in those days, and I believe that's the way that's being calculated. More importantly, you might want to look at your rank, because that tells you whether or not you're attracting students at the same level as other centers to your center, or it could be that staff simply aren't entering attendance data into Pulse. Average two-way communication rate, that's the relative frequency of average communication you're recording, two-way communication you're recording with students. So 1.75 means I'm communicating on average 1.75 times per student and having successful two-way dialogue. Or I marked on average 1.75 two-way boxes in my students' log files. Average communication rate, that's the frequency, the average number of times you reach out to students. So this is the frequency at which you're reaching out and communicating to a student. And your average response rate is the frequency that students are communicating back to you. So hopefully that gives you a pretty brief overview of the center stats file, and you can run this report for any center, and all centers have access to this data. Student stats. Let's take a look at that real quick. I'll open up the student stats file now. This can be used primarily for school improvement planning. And there may be a time in the future, I'm sure there will be, once we build out more, I don't know, thorough school improvement planning process. But basically, you can run comparative reports, all kinds of comparative reports from school data in this system. So if, for instance, I am in Central Macomb, and I just want a comparative report on how my girls, my female students are doing in relation to male students, I can do that right here, which is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and run that report right now. So this is comparison report filter option 1 up here. But then if I want to do a comparative report with a different set of filters, I can do that down here. So we're going to start with setting comparative report filters here. As I said, I wanted to compare all my female students and how they're doing with my male students. So down here, I select my center. I can do this individually by teacher. I can do this with all teachers. In this case, I want to select all teachers. Female, and you can choose by race. There's all kinds of things, and you can also mark specific filter options down here. So maybe I want to see how my risk qualified students are doing against all my full population of students. I can run a report just like that right here. And I would encourage you, just if you had an interest in doing this, play with it a little bit. You're not going to break the system. It may slow things down if you don't choose a center here. If you try to do all schools, this report's going to take, I don't know how long to run. It would be ridiculous. So try not to do that. But if you run reports specific by center, this might be a fun tool for you to use. So we're going to go ahead and get down here on report filter option 2, and again choose Central Montcalm, all teachers, and run it for male, non-specific, but we're going to do male, and get report. All right, so here is my final report. This shows that apparently I have 18 female students and 22 male students. Now you may find that this isn't complete. There's a new integration tool being developed right now that will be able to fill in on an automated basis the student's gender, so that we wouldn't have to go in and manually enter it, which will be nice. So these will get more accurate as we go. But you can see I have basically the same stats info that I had on the center stats page, but now I have it for this center, all teachers, just for female versus male. And I can do a comparison. My average progress. For my year-to-date average progress for females is lower than it is for males. Maybe that makes me want to think a little bit more about how I'm engaging with my female population. I don't know. Looks like my two-way communication rate is a little lower and completed classes is lower. But it may not be. It may not be something I need to concern myself with. The point is, the data is available for you, and you're able to run these reports anytime you want to do some comparative reporting. Again, you can do this by race. You can do this by all kinds of filter options that you have available. And again, I would encourage you to jump in and just play with it a little bit. And if you see anything that jumps out at you as an area that you'd like to work as a center team on, that wouldn't hurt. Hope that helped you understand some of the tools you have under the stats window here. And I'll see you later.